Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Today we have Alvino from Of Feather and Bone. How you doing?
Good man. How you doing?
Good. So you're the bass player and the vocalist from Of Feather and Bone.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Yes, sir.
let's just get right into it. You guys recently did 2020 sulfuric disintegration record. And that's, I think it's your second record on Profound Lore.
Yeah.
So I read another one of your interviews where it was saying you were saying that you did an album. I don't know if it was for sulfuric disintegration or bestial hymns, where you actually wrote an album and then literally scrapped it and then rewrote it. Was that for this one or the previous one?
That was for this one. So we
Okay.
had written it, and then everything, like, we went on the road, we came home from the road, we kind of like took a break from each other because it was like, yeah, we are just kind of tired of one another at that point. And yeah, we went back, we listened to the songs, we're like, none of these are gonna work. We hated it. I think it was like 8 or 9 songs, and we're just like, scrap them. Like, some of the riffs and some parts have been kind of bastardized and put into like sulfuric disintegration in small ways, nothing noticeable. But yeah, we just weren't happy with it. I think we had this mentality of like, we put out a record in 2018. Let's just do it in 2019. Let's just hustle another record out. But the quality wasn't there. When it came time to like close to recording for it, we're like, oh, this is not going to work out at all. We're not prepared whatsoever. So we just like, we told ourselves, yeah, let's just take our time. Profound Lore was fine with that. He's like, yeah, take your time, take as long as you need. I don't care. And so with that said, we went to Europe and we played what was like a version of Sulfuric Sodomy that's on the album now. And we came home and we're like, all right, let's start writing and we'll go on another tour, and then done. And then COVID hit. So that was kind of when everything went to shit. And we kind of like, we took a little bit of time away from each other. At this point, we had already been writing through the fall into the winter of 2019 going into 2020. So we had already had the skeletons of the songs, most of it already done, like, ideas kind of planned out, sorry. And yeah, then March hit, and that's when we were like, well, do we not do it? Do we just hold off? Like, who knows how long this is going to last? Because at that point, tours were dropping left and right. Everything we had planned for 2020, hell, even like early 2021, we're just being like, yeah, we're postponing everything. So we kind of sat around for a month, and then that's when we're like, you know what? Fuck it. We have nothing else to do. Let's just do this record. Let's just finish it. Like, we're about halfway, if not more, into this. Like, let's just get this thing done. We'll record some magical way. We already knew at that point, when we got home from our tour from Europe, playing Killtown, we already knew we were going to work with Arthur Rizek, and we were like, yeah, let's everything's going to work out. We'll just figure this out. Maybe he can come out here. Maybe we go out to Philly. We'll just quarantine and blah blah. And yeah, everything just kind of worked out, not working out that way whatsoever. So we stayed home, recorded, and yeah, the rest is now it's out. I'm glad it's out and it's over.
Do you ever send copies to like Profound Lore and say, hey, this is, like rehearsal tapes or stuff, or do they just sort of get it when it's done?
He could care less about that. Every time, like, you want to hear a clip, he goes, nah, I don't want to hear it until it's at least recorded or at least mixed, because that's like, I think he wants to hear the full aesthetic of it rather than just a crappy, iPhone recording, is what we currently do right now. And that doesn't do the songs justice. It's good for us because we can kind of see the layout of the songs, see what our the drums are doing, the riffs, things like that, so we don't forget through our in between times between practice. But yeah, he is like, nah, don't want to hear any about it. I'll hear it when it's done. So it's
Yeah,
like,
I
yeah, it's like, all
remember
right.
dealing with a label long time ago, and I think his quote was, I don't even like to listen to my own band's shitty recordings, rehearsal recordings. I'm not going to listen to yours. So
Exactly. It's like, I don't want to hear this. It's like, I barely want to listen to them. I have to listen to it for like writing and like learning my parts and kind of things like that, and just memorizing the song. But I'm like, oh, I don't want to hear this. If we had a space that was kind of like allowed us to have a mixing board and kind of do the whole thing, maybe eventually. But for now, we're just kind of this. I don't know. If it's not broke, don't fix it. We've been doing this same method since we started as a band, where we kind of write organically. There's nothing really set up beforehand. Like, our guitarist comes in and he's like, I have kind of an idea. Let's just mess around. And then 4 painstakingly grueling hours later and maybe a couple fights, we have a song done. Then we record it with literally me, like, with my phone, and then that's it. We'll keep working on it, butcher it a bunch of times, and then slowly write songs that way. It's just like, yeah, it's like something we've done this whole time, and it just seems to work. So it's like, why mess with it?
What kind of a rehearsal space do you have? You said you don't even have like any type of recording equipment in like not even a boom box. It's just your
No.
iPhone.
Yes, honestly, Denver sucks
Okay.
for the idea of affordable spaces at all. Gentrification's running this city hard. So any kind of space that was open or was around for like bands to have is being bulldozed for high rises with another bar and another eatery or dispensary. So it's kind of pushed a lot of them out. There's one space that everyone's at, and like at this point, we've been actually like we started this band because it was like fun. We just like let's goof around, and I was like we can just practice at my dad's house because my dad lives alone and he just doesn't care. And he's like, yeah, the whole basement's yours. Do your thing. And again, we kind of like thrown it back and forth, like, oh, maybe we should go find a space. Maybe we can be in Denver because he lives a little bit north in the burbs. And I was, it's like every time we kind of question, it's like, why? The van's parked here. Our stuff is safe. No one's going to mess with our stuff. Like we can have all the stuff down there that we need, all the gear we need. It's just like, maybe it's not soundproofed well enough to like be able to record, but actually that's funny that you bring that up. We're actually going to try that soon. So we'll see how that goes.
Like putting in some recording, like, so you are at your dad's place, where you were talking. Yeah. I mean, that if you can have your own space that you're not paying for, I mean, cha-ching, like,
Exactly. And he's cool with it. He likes to see us. It's like, it's not his music at all. He's old. So he's just like, whatever. He's like, but I think he gets to see, I mean, he's like the guy who's seen it all, like the guy who would care less about our band at all, but he just likes us as people and tolerates me. But I think it's like when we come home from tours, we always have to drop everything off and unpack and everything like that. And it's just like, he's always like down to hear the stories when we come home from places. And he's always like, what was it like there? And what was that like? And, then at first he's like, why are you guys doing this? Do you guys make money? And it's like, no, it's because we like to do this. But as of recent, with like being able to show him interviews, show him tangible results, I think it's kind of gotten him going, all right, you guys aren't just like playing some bar, like, out in the sticks doing covers all night. I think it's like, it's clicking with him. So
yeah, I mean, I got to think that every metal musician has a story like that. And, I remember like having my parents come to a gig, and it was once and once only because they shit over everything. And I was just like, okay, why? I don't know why I just did that. That was just the worst idea ever. And I never got an iota of support from them after that. But yeah, no, it's super cool that your dad's into it.
yeah, no, he's chill. And so that's why it's one of those things where like, why leave? Like everything's right here for us and kind of done and done. Like I said, Denver's just getting so expensive everywhere. So as of now, that's our space and it works. And like I said, we're gonna try and do some recording in there and just see how it goes. We've all become with this free time kind of gotten better at our technical skills electrically and then also as musicians. So it's kind of like, well, let's just see what happens,
You mentioned that there was one place that everybody jams at that I guess you don't jam at, but I mean, I'm sure you get, being from Denver and Colorado, and being that there's just so many bands from there now. I mean, I'm sure you get the Colorado question all the time, like, why is that such a hotbed of metal? I don't know if I ever got a straight answer. I've seen that question around, but what do you like? I can name probably 6 or 7 bands off the top of my head that are just from Denver.
Yeah, and it's mainly it's like a lot of these bands have been established. I mean, like Primitive Man, for example. You have Ethan, who's been booking shows in Denver for shit longer than I've been going to shows. Like he lived at venues, DIY spots. He's brought bands from all over and kind of made Denver. It was more like grindy back then. Like Denver was always like kind of a crust grind scene here going on. And I think just with like the influx of people moving here, a lot of people aren't from here, just kind of brought in also that I like new people with that new ideas, or maybe it's pre-existing ideas, like Paul from Spectral Voice coming here from Oregon. He's had these bands in works for so long that I think he finally like met up with musicians that are like-minded or as equally as talented and had the same drive, and like, let's just put this down, let's get this done. Kind of like Spectral Voice, like between him and Eli, it's been something that's been in works forever, and it finally is coming into fruition and came into fruition and is like still moving forward. And then with that said, you get offshoots like Black Curse. It's like members of like almost a super group essentially of like dudes from bands here. And I think, yeah, like I said, I think just that melting pot of people moving here and different talents and skills and like, yeah, I said the same ideals and the same ideas for bands, just boom, it was the perfect timing. It was just something that needed to happen. So yeah.
Cool. One of the things I definitely, going through your stuff, I was kind of interested in having a talk with you about was sort of like the genres and what people call the genres. Now, like I hate tags on music because I think people mistag things all the time, right? And that annoys the shit out of me. But like I did notice, like when I looked you up on Metal Archives and stuff, it was like, oh, they used to be punk hardcore, and I was like, I don't know, I don't like hear that at all from your earlier stuff. If anything, maybe in a punk sense, where like the precursor to grindcore was like the Cryptic Slaughters of the world, who were sort of punk, but they were playing just super fast, and that sort of maybe became what was grindcore. So I just wanted to know how you felt about some of those tags that they put on your earlier stuff, as opposed to what it became later.
100%. You said it. You summed it up. It's not hardcore. It's not punk. It's just grindy. And even when we played with hardcore bands, because like in Denver, it's such a mixed bag of bands here, which is cool. It's nice to play with like a punk band, a black metal band, a doom band, and a death metal band. It's nice to have that variety and that diversity. But like every time we played in front of anything that was remotely hardcore or what modern hardcore is, they would stare at us like we were stupid. Like they had no idea what a blast beat was. We'd go into the blasts and they would just be like, I don't know what this is, don't care what this is, and don't want to know what you guys are doing. Like I guess I can clear the air here, which is cool. Hopefully people see this and actually like fucking hear this for now. It's like you weren't there those first few years. Those first few years for us and those first tours were treacherous. We went on these tours knowing very well we were going to, one, lose our ass, two, play to people who didn't really care about us because we didn't have a better avenue. We didn't know the connections. That were just like, we're just a band, a bunch of dudes who have punk backgrounds and the DIY scene here in Denver. So we're just going to get in a van and we're just going to fucking do this. I'm going to find people on Facebook and Instagram and just write emails and book a tour ourselves. So those first few tours were like, yeah, they're desolate. They were rough. They were something that we got home and like, why are we still doing this? But it's like, it's because we love it. And that grind that we had to do, like literally grind for it, is something that people weren't there for seeing. So it's easy to just pigeonhole and go, it's punk hardcore, whatever. They're posers. They change their sound to more death metal or whatever. And it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, you weren't there. You don't know what that was like. You don't know what it was like. We were playing our style. Yeah, it was maybe not the most crucial of death metal or black metal or whatever tag you want to throw on it. The problem is, it's like you weren't there to see how everyone hated us. We were something that people were like, why are you doing this style? What's with the D beats? What's with the blasts? What's with the heavy parts? What's with the mid pace parts? Why are the vocals like this? Why do you drop them sometimes? Why are they high sometimes? It's like, this is just what we did. It's just naturally, it wasn't anything we kind of sat down with each other when we first met and went, we want to sound exactly like this, or we want to go this exact path. It's like, let's just fuck around and play and see what happens. And, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, just kept doing it. And it was like, oh, cool. It's working a little bit, keep going. And it's working a little bit, keep going. And like I said, it was such a slow grow. We weren't a band that just kind of like popped up one day, put out a demo, was picked up by a label, and then next thing you know, you get signed to a major label or something like that. It was just kind of like, nah, we've had to do a lot of it ourselves. Luckily, through time, we met a lot of cool people like Ethan, who's our booking agent, meeting up with, Profound Lore, and then Daniel from Killtown in Europe. It's just, and then after that, it just stems so far out to this point where it's like, yeah, like to where we're at now, to anybody to discredit that, obviously they weren't there to see it. But if anybody discredits that, here's the last thing I say is, fuck you. We did it all ourselves, and we're fucking here now. And we put out a record that, in my honest opinion, fucking hits hard, and we're proud of it. And we're just going to keep going. We're already writing again. We wrote a song yesterday, and it's not going to fucking stop because we have that background. We have that work ethic that a lot of bands just don't do it. Like, we're from the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, it's not like the East Coast where you're in DC, boom, you can get to Baltimore, you can get to Philly, you get to New York, and, you go up to Boston. It's like a week tour, you're hitting tons of different places. For us to get out of here, it takes us eight hours at least to get anywhere worth a damn. like Omaha's 9 hours away, and I haven't seen really many shows there going on. Like obviously with times, but I meant before that even. Salt Lake's somewhat hard for us too. It's like Albuquerque's hard, so we have to get to Phoenix or we have to get to LA or maybe even Vegas if you're lucky. But like, it's just one of those things where it's like we're not handed shit here. All the bands here have all come from a DIY background. We all come from a style that's just like we have to do this because no one else is going to do it for us. And I think that buildup of all these bands now and have people focus on Denver on top of that, kind of go back to that other question, is just something that's just been in the works for a long time, and that's where we're at now too. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm extremely lucky to live within a half an hour ride to New York City. And I always tell people when we talk about metal, like, man, when I was 14, I was able to take the bus into the city and see a show at CBGB's and come back before my parents even knew I was gone for the day. So it was just crazy. And I have a 16-year-old now, and like to think that I was going by myself and with a couple friends into the city at 2 years younger than he is was just blows my mind. But
especially at that time in New York, especially
oh,
Lower East Side.
oh fucking A. I can't even, like, I shudder to think, but like at the time I thought I was like, this is fine, like
Whatever. It don't
whatever.
matter. Exactly. Yeah. So
But
it's just, I think, yeah, it's a different place here. It's a different breed, especially if you're not from. I mean, that's why up until, Denver became quote unquote cool, no one came here. You saw everyone go over or underneath us and just skip us like we are some cow town. Now everyone is like, I want to come to Denver and I want to play with, could you set us up a show with Blood Incantation, Spectral Voice, Primitive Man and a Feather and Bone, and maybe throw Wayfarer on there? It's like, what do you think? No, maybe we'll get Chemist open too. I don't know, man. Like, it's like it's just done a 180 completely to now everyone wants to come here, whether it's for the weed or the good beer or just the scenery or the scene is popping. And I think it's just one of those things where it's like, now you overlooked us before, and now you understand why we're here, why we're doing this. Exactly, 100%. I got a lot of saltiness on tonight. So
yeah, no problem. I think that's hysterical. So no, I totally bring that. When you guys were booking your own DIY tour, were you just connecting with bands and stuff like that? Like I'm just trying to figure out how you wound up on like shitty bills or bills where people were like staring at you. Like were you booking with the wrong types of bands, or how was that going?
absolutely wrong promoters, wrong bands. Sometimes promoters just had no idea what to do with us. They go, sure, I'll book you, but I don't know what the fuck you guys are playing. So we're gonna throw on a beat down band, this dad metal band, and some like skate punk band. You know what I mean? At that point, you get to the show and you go, this isn't curated to everyone. Like I said, I love diversity, but those bands need to be established to create a crowd that wants to see this diversity. When it's
Right.
just like a local band that jams out every couple months and knows a cover and like a few originals, that's not going to do you any good. And like I said, I think that was definitely due to us being a young band. No one knew who we were. No one knew what to do with our sound. They didn't have bands like that all over that could fit a bill. So we just kind of, like I said, just why are we doing this? It's like, well, let's just keep going, and eventually maybe something will click. And then that's when you start meeting other bands and go, hey, you guys want to do a tour together? Then that makes it a little easier because they have two bands to fit this bill that are kind of specific to one another. And then you go, oh, there's one other band in this city, throw them on. And then, it just kind of works out that way. And through that networking of just like, shit, I remember from my first band, like even like when I was a kid, was just using MySpace and emails and things like that to just try to get yourself out there. And I think that's what we just kept doing it that way until someone was like, hey, I want to book for you. And it's like, great, I don't have to do this anymore. This is
Yeah, no
awesome.
shit. That's the worst booking.
Yeah. Oh, it's and like I'm, as you could tell, like you say, like I'm the spokesperson for the band. I'm the dad, I'm the business. The other two are the brains of the art behind it, and they're the true skilled, talented musicians of the band. So what I lack musicianship wise, I make up in doing this kind of stuff and being the business person of the band. So that's just like, yeah, when it came down to booking tours, it's like, well, I guess I'm gonna sit on my computer forever and shoot 800 emails out and hope one sticks to the wall, and hopefully, yeah, then we'll have a tour if we have it routed, and go out there and hope it doesn't cancel right when we pull up, and which has happened, or mix ups and shit like that, which we had to drive, Jesus, think 14 hours overnight one night from Detroit or from Minneapolis to Detroit. And we made it late for the fest we were supposed to play. They bumped our time. So right when we pulled out of the van, driving all night, they're like, you guys are on right now. I was like, cool, thanks. So it's like, these are the ends of the, you know, the frayed ends of what it's like to do this on a DIY level and not have that support from really anybody. You just kind of go out there and hope that, like I said, you play one city, the next time you show up, maybe there's 4 more people, maybe there's 10 more people, maybe it's just a better show, and it just kind of grows that way. But yeah.
So you mentioned, I mean, you didn't mention, I'm going to mention, you went out with Tomb Mold, I know, but so who else have you been playing out with? Just let's drop some names and tell me who you've enjoyed playing out with.
Oh, man, Two Volt was awesome. That was just kind of one of those things where they hit us up and they're like, let's go on tour. We're like, all right, let's do it. Like, let's just be friends. And we did that US tour together. And then we went to Europe together with Ritual Necromancy, which was, for me, awesome because they dropped one of the best records that year too. And they're such such a established band that's so talented, filled with good members and just good dudes. They're fun to be around. They're party animals. So we did a small room with Primitive Man. That was a good time. They're just close friends. It's just nice to be in different cities with people that you see all the time at shows or at home and stuff like that. So that was a good time. Shit, I don't know. I'm like brain farting now. I'm like, where have we been the past 5 years?
It's
You
funny
know,
going out with Primitive Man because like I feel like you were just like blasting and unrelenting, and they're just like all fucking sludgy as all hell. So
that's it. I like that diversity. If I go to a show,
oh.
God forbid it be 4 doom bands. Oh my God, I'm gonna be there all night. Or hell, if it's or say it's 4 grindcore bands. Cool, we're here for 10 minutes. We're out. All right, that's a good night right there. But you know, I like having that variation and having people. Hopefully, people it sticks with people. You know, they kind of go, oh, maybe they're doom heads. Maybe they're like, oh, maybe I'm gonna give this a shot. And I don't know. It's metal. It's goofy. It's weird. It's gross. It's it's depressed. It has so many different moods that I think you can put on one band if you're in a certain mood, or a different band if you're in a different mood. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that's the beauty of it. It's still extreme. It's still heavy. It's still fast and sonically destroying. But I think they can all invoke different themes to them. But yeah.
I think one of your songs does. I'm just as you're talking about just being gross. I think one of your songs does sort of start with like bee noises or but like insects or something.
Yeah. So that was God damn, I'm forgetting Repulsive Obscurity off of Bestial Hymns.
Yeah.
We're like, how do we want to start? Should it just be feedback and noise, or do we just come straight into it? And Dave, our guitar player, was just like, how about like it's just noise of like flies and grossness and just sounds like something like decaying things. We're like, perfect, let's do it. And it worked. I love it. We actually used it, like we were using in the set, like on a sampler. It would just kind of create this atmosphere that we really enjoy.
It's funny. I would have thought more. Somebody else would have. I can't think of anybody else who has done quite that. Yet it's so obvious. I don't mean to say that in a bad way.
100%. Like we went and like, has anybody else done this? And we kind of listened to like records for a week. I was like, go listen to everything. Go listen to Autopsy. Go listen to anything that's older and make sure they haven't done this, so we're not ripping anybody off. Like like we're obviously not trying to rip anybody off because we have no idea. But we just went through a bunch of things. We're like, at this point, fuck it. I can't find anything apparent, so let's just do it. So. And you're right. It is. It's so obvious. It's like, why wouldn't someone want like
somebody to just
a
be
pet?
like, just
Yeah, exactly. It's like you want that noise to set up that aesthetic, that visual that it's about to get nasty.
In 2016, you guys did a 2-song demo tape, and it seemed like that was maybe a way for you to say like, okay, we're really gonna just go into that more unrelenting sound. I don't know what else how to say, just like the unrelenting sound, which is what you have now, versus maybe more sort of the breakdowny type of thing that you were doing before. So was that a sort of a way to say like, hey, we're doing a shift now. Let's see what kind of interest we can draw in this?
Yeah, you think this is also obvious, but you're literally the first person to understand that's what that was. It was meant to not shock people when we dropped a new album and be like, what happened? There's this big schism here. It's like, no, there was this little midpoint that was 2 songs that showed you this is what's going to happen. This is where it's going to start evolving into, whether you're at there listening to us at that time, or like you said, you look back on it now, you kind of go, oh yeah, I see that there's a little bit of a a leeway into it. And that's exactly 100% what it was. We didn't want to shock people. We just wanted to, we had these 2 songs written. Sheesh, we had them written before we put out the first record. They were done. That's how much time we had from writing the first record to actually coming into fruition and being released in physical copy, is we were still able to write 2 songs. I think there were 4 songs even written. We just went with Pious Abnormality and Repulsive Obscurity because they were the strongest of the songs. Then we're like, all right, well, we got to wait. That first record was out for, I think at that point, 6 months. We're like, all right, screw it, fuck it. We've toured on it once. Let's just get this new stuff done. And that's kind of just, yeah, that was the whole idea of it, was just kind of show people, not surprise people a little bit.
Okay. I heard you talking a little bit about, and I'll try to dig up these other interviews that I saw and post them in the comments, so I give people their due credit. But you were talking about some of the, I've heard you talk about some of the clubs in Denver, and I think you mentioned the High Dive being a place that you really like to play. I think it was interesting that you were said like part of the best part about it was that it was small, and I just thought the best shows I've ever been to were at total fire hazard places where there were just like 5 times as many people as should be in the club that were in the club, you know? So like the smaller places were better. Like if you could pack 100 people into a place that took 25, like that was a fucking show.
Exactly. And it's just like, that's why High Dive's so special, because it's like on any given good night, you can have a show there. I think the capacity is what, 260, somewhere in that realm, 260. And when it sells out, it is fucking crazy in there. You can't even walk through that place. And it just looks good to everybody. Everybody there, the bar's making money, the bands are making money. People there are like, oh shit, this is popping. Like this is where we want to be. These bands are cool. Like, let's all listen to us. That's how we built the scene, is having good venues that were cool with it just being metal night, knowing they probably weren't going to bring in a lot of the normie people who were going to buy a bunch of drinks. They just created this almost like a haven for metal. And it worked. It worked really well. The bartenders were cool. Joe from Primitive Man worked there at the time, you know, like with things going on now. But yeah, it just clicked. Like Ethan did this thing called Dad Fest. It was Denver All Day Fest. And it would be some bands upstairs on the main stage. And then downstairs, they have the tiniest fucking basement. We'd throw like weird bands down there, like City Hunter, who's from here. They're more of like a hardcore, like gore band. They're tight. They're so sick. Check them out. Check out City Hunter. They're sick.
City Hunter.
But yeah, like, so we played down there on the last one, or the last thing that happened there. I'm trying to remember what it was. And, you know, we were like, at first, like, man, we kind of want to play the stage. We don't want to play this tiny ass basement, but it was so awesome. That whole place was packed out. Like we could see people like through the doorway on the stairs, like kind of sitting there, like looking in. People were like crowd surfing down there. It was wild. It was so sick, but it's just cool to have a space like that. And that's why, yeah, because like I could think of a time where we played the bigger venue here. One of the bigger venues called Summit Music Hall, and we played with Cannibal Corpse, Power Trip, and Gate Creeper. And like, yeah, right. You say that, and you go, that must have been an incredible show, right?
Yeah.
It's I would trade 10,000s of those shows to play that basement again right now, because that basement show is just, it was real, it was raw, it's unbridled violence. It was just perfect. It was everything that we are. We had the lights green, so it was just like kind of a slimy fog like basement, and it was gross. The walls were dripping. It was like, this is it. This is where we belong. This is what we've been doing this whole time. We play Cellars in Reno, Nevada, or we're playing, you know, some shitty bar in some other fucking town, you know. It's like, this is where we came up. This is how we know how to play. So when we play big stages, we're still actually, as a band, getting used to that, because that's just something we're not overly used to. We weren't bred that way. We're not that kind of band. So it's just yeah, I would trade all those big shows just to play a place like High Dive any day.
Do you ever get to come on to play somebody's basement anymore, or did they not even bother with you guys at that point?
Well, I mean, if we go on tour, there's some spots that they just don't have a solid venue, or like a cool venue that's like willing to rent out their space for, one, a good price, or two, for that kind of music. So you're kind of at the mercy of like, well, we got to drive to this place. Do we skip it, or do we just take this, you know, VFW style basement show and just kind of hope for the best, you know, and do a door deal, and maybe we get some money and get some Taco Bell afterwards and we're good to go, you know. But it's like, yeah, no, it still happens for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Like, obviously after this record, it's hard to tell, so we can't, you know, gauge it because we haven't toured, I'm able to tour yet, but I guess we'll find out hopefully soon.
Yeah, because that, I mean, like that does sound awesome to me, but then again, I'm not trying to pay for a tour, you know?
Exactly. And it's hard. It's one of those things too, where it's like, if it is super DIY, you know, and there's people like, I'm older now too. And I'm just like, man, at the end of my week, maybe I just want to go to have a bar, have a drink, enjoy a show, leave. Done. I don't want to go driving through some neighborhood, ask a punk kid on the corner who has a dog with a bandana on to tell me to go down 4 houses that way, take a left and then right. And then when you see the sketchy gray van outside, you've made it. You know, it's like, and then you got to hide your beer inside and like, you know, who knows what's going to be happening inside there. It's just one of those things. I get that. Some people at a certain point go, I don't want to deal with this shit. I just want to go to a venue, have a drink, see some friends, watch a band that sounds good too, because you're going to pay X amount of money. We want to have quality to it as well. You're there for a show. That's what it's called, you know? So I understand that too, with that aspect of eventually, like at some point you kind of got to go, all right, we can't do this anymore. And not to say that that doesn't succeed still though. Like we played a garage with Blood Incantation, Vermin Womb, and I'm forgetting the last band, but it was in a garage here called Club Scum, and literally a garage. And that place was packed and it was sweet and it worked. Maybe just because it was hometown and it was fun like that or whatever. But like, yeah, I look back on that show and go, it worked. People didn't care. People came out regardless. So maybe it's just the caliber of bands or just our city was sick, but who knows?
I do feel bad that we weren't able to get your drummer, because that's like the one guy I feel like talking to after I listen to your music, because I'm like, how the fuck do you do a full set of that?
Oh man, it's funny. Every time, every show, not fail, me and Dave are like chop liver. No one wants to talk to us. Everyone's like, whatever, you guys are great. Now the drummer, let's talk to this guy. Cause like when you see him, he's, you know, 110 pounds wet, you know, like he's nothing but a string bean. He's a little guy but he fucking kills it. He's just gotten better and better and better. It's just uncanny with him. Like when we first started to now, just the strides he's made. Even right now, like I said, we wrote a song yesterday just to see his chops still be there and even trying to step him up a little bit and control it. It's just, yeah, it's awesome. And that gets funny because like people always want to talk to him. And like he's great. He could easily do this conversation with you. Sometimes he's a little like, he's like, I don't know if I sounded cool. Do I sound stupid? I was like, nah, man, just talk. But yeah, he's a freak for sure.
Yeah, because I got to think that after a show, like, can he even move his arms? I mean,
He's a machine. He's great. And that's like, maybe it's just his youth or maybe it's his metabolism. I don't know what it is, but yeah, as long as he gets some Taco Bell at the end of the night in him and some sleep in a shower, he's pretty much good to go. Like that's him in a nutshell. He'll sleep all day in the van. And maybe that's what it is. Actually, I just solved it right now. I'm going to tell the other two, I get it now. He sleeps all day in the van. He doesn't drive, doesn't do anything. When he's the wingman and he should be awake, keeping me awake because I'm the one who drives, he should be like there. Now he's passed out. He's asleep the whole time. So maybe he's just getting a lot of rest and maybe that works for him. But whereas like I'm not getting any rest and I'm worthless. So after we're done with the set, I'm like, I'm going to go crawl somewhere and die.
see, do you have your own tour van? I assume that it's like just like literally a van.
Good old fashioned E350. They don't build them like that anymore. They build those shitty transits now. And it's like, yeah, they just stopped making the true workhorse. Fuck Dodge, fuck Chevy, fuck them both. Ford E350 is the van and is the only one that works. And I promise that. And never name your van either. That's bad luck. I have so many stories of people going, we named our van. I'm like, here it comes. And then boom, we broke down in Oakland. We broke down in, you know, wherever. It's like, yep, I told you, it's bad luck. Trust the E350. Just trust the E350 and don't call her anything. Just let her do her job. Okay. So yeah, it's just good old fashioned van. It's coming up on its ages though. So I'm dreading like, what am I going to do when this one has to kick the can? Hopefully there's still some good early 2000 ones out there that are still built well and can just kind of pick one up with like lower mileage.
Definitely go. Just at the minute it breaks down, you just go get another one.
Exactly. And honestly, that's what it is. I bought this van. I've had this van for 11 years maybe now.
Okay.
Something like that. And like, it was because like, I lost my mother and she died. And at that point I was like, well, I was in college. I was like, whatever. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm buying a van. I'm going to start a band and we're just going to tour because I just want to see the world. And that those first bands never really took off. So I just had this van sitting here. And finally, when A Feather and Bone was like really serious about touring more, I was like, oh, we got a van. This is going to work. And boom, she's been the workhorse since.
So that works for America, but you said you've been to Europe a couple times, yes?
Yeah.
So what happened? What do you do when you go over there? Like
Oh,
as far
man. No offense to any American right now watching this, but fuck the US, fuck touring here. Europe is the best.
Okay.
We're so bummed. We were supposed to be there this past September with Mortiferum and doing a run around Killtown, and there's some other fests going on, and obviously went to shit. But that's where we're like kind of like hoping on the most. Like, oh, we're going back. We can't wait to go back. We're going back a year later. This is gonna be fucking great. We're just gonna stay there. We're just gonna relocate the band and be a Danish band or something now. But it's so chill having someone like Daniel, who runs Killtown. It's so simple. Just go, here's our backline. This is what we need. It's rented. Obviously, we pay that with the guarantees. He has a van. Hop in the van. Done. Set and done. It's so easy out there too, because if there is an opening band, which I'll be honest with you, most of the times it's just you, like just the package and no local bands or anything like that. But they use all your stuff. So imagine 5 bands, same exact backline, except for breakables. Like you take off cymbals and snare, amp stay, cab stay. The turnovers are like just so fast, and it's phenomenal. People are stoked. Everyone's there to see a show. People will insult you to your face, but then buy all your merch. It's so sick. It just all works out. Like it's just super easy. We just show up with our guitars, some drum stuff, and that's it. Merch is made out there. We just pick it up there, and so simple. I don't have to drive at all because I don't have an EU license, so I just sit in the van and sleep all day. So it's sick.
So that's funny. So I guess because it's not it's not your equipment. So I guess it doesn't matter if 50 different people are, as long as, again, they're not using your guitar or using your cymbals, then fuck it.
What the fuck do I care? Yeah, you'll use it. And they're usually like JCMs or maybe a 5150 or 6505 pretty much, and an Ampeg SVT Classic. Like they're just such, I don't want to say basic tools because we use 5150s and Ampegs, but but it's just like these are workhorse like equipment, like the 4x12 slant cab Marshall, like the 1960s. It's like these are all proven workhorse, equipment. So yeah, I don't care. It's like, yeah, use it all you want, man. Turn it up. We'll change the settings later, but yeah, it's super sweet. And then even better when you play fest, there's a backline already there. You don't even have to unload the van. You just walk in, go into a hospitality room, eat some snacks, and done. It's so sweet.
So that's fine. I always feel like back in the day there was a joke between local bands, and they'd be like, nobody cares about us here, but we're huge in Belgium or something like that. But it, I half the time that's got to be like an actual true thing for a lot of bands around, here. Where if they'll get some support from maybe like a label in Europe that they'll go there and actually get a better reception.
Yeah, and I think it's just out here. It's like, especially in your own hometown, that's why we can't play a lot, because you'll just burn yourself out.
Yeah.
It's just like people get tired of you. No, they're like, oh shit, they played last week. I'll just see them next month. No big deal. Or oh, they're playing again, and we'll catch them next time. And then eventually, you oversaturate your own market. So that's why I hear like people are like, oh man, it must be crazy. You must be chemists on any given night. It's like they play once a year. Luckily, Blood Incantation will play once a year. Luckily, us and Primitive Man. Yeah, they will.
Colorado, they don't play in Colorado. That's
not a lot of. Yeah, that's why it's so crucial to have younger bands or newer bands or bands that are made up of like bastardized versions of all these people. You get this like chimera of like members. That's why it's so important to have those, because they're there to support the touring bands when they come through. Because when we can't all play, you need someone to fill. Have those open slot spaces. We got to have that, and that's why it's like. It's hard right now. I'm not seeing too much of that happening. I mean, obviously with the pandemic, but like even before that, there wasn't a lot of like newer bands popping up. That's why they're so important, because as they get bigger, then boom, they go up. We all kind of just go up with each other. But without having that, the touring bands are like, oh man, I don't know. There's no one to play with anymore. So good luck, because it's like, yeah, not everyone can play a show all the time or wants to, So because like some bands do really well here. Chemists plays the Bluebird, which is a pretty big venue, and they sell it out, and it does really well for them. So I think, yeah, when we go other places and people are like, oh, we never get to see you, it's like, yeah, it's awesome, especially Europe, because they don't get to see American bands, especially smaller underground bands all that often. So when we're there, they roll out and they're super grateful, super gracious. Like that's how Mexico is when we played there. They don't even, they're just like, they're just so happy that you're there. And they'll, you know, they're intently watching the whole time. Like, wow, you people really care about our shitty ass band, but thanks.
I think Mexico is notorious, like death metal. Like I think Mexico is like a huge like death metal.
They're animals down there in Mexico City. They are true heathens that just party hard, bang their heads, and just truly live it. They love it. I think we had a white shirt at the fest we played, and it didn't sell at all. We didn't sell one. They're like black has to have a goat, like goat raping Christ on there with like a, you know, severed head in the other hand, like just throwing. They're done with the Corona, they're smashing on the ground, and I'm like, yeah, this is sweet. I love this place. Yeah, yeah, no, you're not wrong. They're true maniacs.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned the black T-shirts, and I think it's funny because I think Facebook finally figured out. You know, I think any store that puts a pentagram or a goat head on a fucking T-shirt, it gets served up to me on Facebook now because they've sort of
Oh,
figured that out.
exactly. It works. I get it.
Any other like good tour stories that you have from going in Europe? You know, differences between. I know you just said it's better in Europe, but any other differences between touring in the States and Europe?
I think Americans are spoiled brats, especially on the coasts. Like they see everything. Every band from everywhere goes there. If it's, you know, one night in New York City, it's, you know, the next night in New York City. Like it's just band after band after band. Like being from where we're at, like especially when I was growing up, it's like you got lucky if there was a show. You're like, oh shit, there's a band here from Texas. Let's go. You know, it's like one of those things that no one came here because it's so far out of the way. So I think having that as like a precursor, as a foundation, like it makes me gracious when a band does come through. I'm like, I'm gonna go check it out because who knows if they're gonna come back to Colorado, or, you know, who knew this was gonna happen, you know, this with the world. So I would have gone to way more shows if I would have known this. But I think everyone feels that way. But I think that's just one big difference is Americans are spoiled. They see everything. They see all these bands. They have, you know, it's just it's the US. This is how it is. And
I was going to say, for the record, I might be spoiled, but I am also grateful. Because
exactly. And that's I mean, most people are grateful for that, but I think after a while you're like, ah, I'm tired. I don't need to go to a show. Whereas like just other cultures, I think are just like, yeah, this is their thing. They're excited. That's why like the shows on Friday, especially on Fridays and Saturday nights, there obviously everywhere do well. It's just, yeah, that's their night to enjoy themselves and get out there. And yeah, they roll out in huge numbers. You know what I mean? It's just like I remember booking shows here in Denver, and if it was a Sunday night, I was like, we're not doing a Sunday night because Game of Thrones is on and no one's coming to the show. I guarantee you. It's like I knew 100% because I had booked shows on Sundays, and I go, the fuck is everyone? Like, this is a great show. And I go, and someone's like, oh, Game of Thrones is on. I go, well, there goes the show. So
that's
it's like,
so ridiculous, but okay. I mean,
yeah, I know, right?
I, I liked Game of Thrones. I watched it, but there was no reason I couldn't watch it the next day. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I know some people feel differently.
You can't DVR. You don't have TiVo. Like take care of your shit. Handle it. You know what I mean? But yeah, exactly. So I think there's just a different, just a difference between that and just how they see it and how great, like I said, how grateful they are really to go to shows. But again, nothing beats going. Like we love playing the West Coast, going to Portland, Seattle, LA is always a good time. Texas is always fun. Shit. Our last show that we played with Tumult at Vitus in Brooklyn was still top 3 best shows I've ever played. It was fucking incredible. Just you had Oxalate on the show, so it was like we met them, their friends, and became homies. And that show was just out of control. So much fun. So yeah, it's like there's still a lot of great things here, and like, you know, honestly, it's just like being from where we're at, going to the East Coast or even the South. It's like, oh, this is a whole different world to us. Like we do all the touristy shit. Like we gotta go see we gotta go to Times Square because we're a bunch of Colorado hicks. So, you know, let's go see all the weird shit there. But nah, US has its charm for sure.
Yeah, we actually had Oxalate on a couple months ago. They're super cool dudes.
Yeah, they're awesome. Good people, great bands. Yeah, can't thank Zach enough for booking all the shows out there and taking care of all of us. So he's awesome.
Okay, I mean, we're sort of getting at time. You mentioned doing a couple new songs. Why don't we just wrap it up with talking about what A Feather and Bone is going to do in the future, what we might be looking forward to, and what you guys are working on, and how the pandemic. I mean, maybe not so much the pandemic talk, but what you're thinking of, what you've got planned out for the future.
We're gonna keep writing. We're gonna keep pounding out music. As of now, we're just kind of just gonna like want to put out another demo like that 2016 one. Put a couple songs out, let people, cleanse their palates a little bit from sulfuric disintegration. See what is like how it's going to evolve into what's next. It's obviously not too crazy off, but pretty similar. But yeah, just we're not going to drop a new record right away because we just have this one and it's still fresh. It's still out there. It's still I mean, in the world of kind of records fly. It's like, oh, it's out for 2 weeks, done. What's the next one? What's the next one? But it's still out there. There's still people hearing it for the first time now, and even if it's months later. So it's like, why do a disservice to that record and put out, another 6 to 8 songs or whatever? It's like, no, let's put out a couple songs, rough recording, keep it raw, and just kind of keep it fun that way. And if we can't tour, then fuck it. Here comes the next record. Be ready, 2022. We'll have a new record out.
Would that
But,
be? Would like Profound Lore doesn't do too many 7 inches, do they? Like what? Would that would just be like a digital thing?
all right, honestly, for us, tapes. Our drummer runs a tape. Yeah, he runs a tape label that's like all ambient noise, and I don't know. I don't know anything about the genre. It's sick. He loves it. Support him all I can, but I don't understand the music at all. But maybe I'm old or whatever. But it just works. Tapes work. People love them. People want some sort of physical format. I think that's why people like, especially like our age, are kind of like a little bit older too, are kind of going like, why tapes? It's like because it's physical. Whether CDs are, most people don't have a CD player. To be real, vinyl. Some people don't want the lug, the baggage of having it all. It's sitting right here next to me. I look at it sometimes and go, God, why do I have so much stupid records? But at the same time, it's like a tape is tangible and it's affordable. You can sell them for $8 and the cost is super low on them. And done. You have a physical format. You got a digital format. You don't need much money backing to do that. And you can put 100 out, make your money, do another 100 right after the bat. So that's why it works that so well. So yeah, probably do a couple songs, put a tape out.
Put a tape
We
out.
can't be on the, and once we can hit the road, we're out. We're going as fast as we can. We'll be everywhere as much as we can, and that's kind of our goal. And like I said, if we can't do that, then just start the new record. Just kind of keep pushing, not sit stagnant, and not drift into obscurity. We just want to stay very in people's faces, regardless of the times and regardless of what we can do. So
you're definitely thinking ahead to that next tour, because I'm still trying to figure out when exactly that's going to be, but I assume that as soon as it's safe, maybe when the vaccinations all happen, that you're like, we'll go out again.
yeah, once it's like cool and like you can do it, not like Jesus, the weird bars out here in the sticks where they're having shows on Tuesday nights, with no masks and shit. Fuck that shit. And trying to get in that mess. Don't want to be part of that nonsense. We're just gonna do it when it's right. And when we can have a good show, when we can actually go on tour and it's worth our fucking time to be gone from home and gone from our lives here, it's like when it's worth it, then back to the old days, we'll do it. So,
okay. Just before we wrap up, anything else you want to plug? I get the sense that you guys are a big side project band, but if you have anything like that, or just whatever, your buddies that you just feel like people should check out, let me.
Oh man. Like I said, our drummer has a tape label called Trust Collective with Brandon from Vermin Womb. He plays bass in the band. So they do this tape label, all noise. If you're into ambient noise and really soft shit and weird shit, check it out. It's cool. Other than that, no side projects. Like I said, we're just so busy with this in our lives that we just kind of want to give it 100% always to this as much as we can. And as far as other bands, oh man, I kind of had that in mind. I was like, oh, who can I shout out real fast? And like, who should you listen to? Check out Miasmatic Necrosis, some of the best grind that came out last year. Shit's crazy. Septage out of Denmark. It's members of Tophos and Hyperdontia. They're phenomenal. They put out a tape on Extremely Rotten. That is next level. Black Curse from here. That's probably a top record that came out last year. It's an insane record. Can't touch it. No one can touch that shit. Other than that, I'm like thinking around me. I'm like, oh, what else can I shout out? But no, just keep an eye out. We're just gonna keep putting out music, and we'll be in your face. We'll be here the whole time.
Yeah, and thanks so much for coming on. I mean, I like the earlier stuff, so I don't want to poop on that, but I mean, the new stuff is just so fucking unrelenting and crazy that it just,
Yep.
I think, just punches people in the face and doesn't stop. So
Thank you so much. And that's how we feel about it too. We're super critical of ourselves. We're super self-conscious people in general. And when we did this, we're actually incredibly proud of this record. We're very happy with the way it turned out. We're happy with every aspect of it. And yeah, just couldn't be more stoked on it. So thank you.
okay, so I guess we'll just wrap it up. Again, thank you so much, Alvino, for coming on and talking about A Feather and Bone, and that's it.
Oh
So
yeah.
we'll keep us. We'll stay in touch. We'll when you got new stuff out, let me know. We'll plug it where we can, and again,
Oh
really
yeah.
appreciated you coming on.
And have another chat, hopefully with the other two. So yeah.
Yeah, no,
Thanks, man.
we haven't figured out when we're gonna do repeat shows, like to have bands back on. But definitely, when your next album comes on, hit us up, and Eric, who couldn't make it today, unfortunately, will be on, and we'll get everybody together.
Oh yeah, man. Oh, thank you so much for everything. Appreciate it.
Okay, cool. Bye, everybody.
Take care.